Do you have any idea how to generate ideas? I got a few. Let's share those today. Brainstorming is the classic way that we generate ideas. Well, how's that done? A couple of things I've learned about brainstorming that might be helpful. First of all, find a time when you can do this. It's not something that you just do on the spur of the moment or as you're doing other things. You want to create some time and some space around this. So let's say that you want to generate ideas for a new product or a new service or a new aspect of your business or your career or your relationship or whatever, okay? Set aside some time to actually do it. If you are in a position that requires ongoing creation and generation of ideas, then you'll want to have this be a recurring time when you can generate ideas. Now, there are different modes of your brain functioning. I did a video with James Garrett where he described this really nicely. You can link to that right up here. And he talked about an executive functioning and a more creative functioning of our brain. So the next step is we want to get into the creative mode of our brain. Some things that will help us to do this are to create a setting that's conducive to the creative part of our brain. You don't want to be, for example, in the place where you usually do all of your executive functioning. Sitting at your desk, for example, probably not the best place to do your brainstorming and idea generation. Why? Because it uses a different part of your brain typically when you sit there. So you might want to go outside. You might want to sit by a stream. You might want to gather your creative team together in a playroom somewhere. This gives the mind permission to start relaxing a little bit and opening up and coming up with those different ideas that are just not available to you when you're on executive mode and you're getting things done. Now, another thing that's helpful on brainstorming is to have some kind of a capture method that allows you to later, not now, later organize your ideas into categories or into a place where you can start to evaluate the relative merit of those ideas. This capture method depends on what is going to work really well for you, but here's a few examples. Using Post-it notes, for example. You know the little notes that have a little sticky on the back? And you jot down one idea and tear it off and stick it somewhere. Another idea, tear it off, stick it somewhere. So that you're not putting multiple ideas on one note. Just one idea per note. That allows you to organize them later because they're all separated. Index cards is another way that you can do this. Now let's say that you don't want to take the time to write things down. Well, you can do it electronically on your computer. You could record your voice saying the ideas. That's going to take a little work later on to extract those and get them into an editable format. But basically, you want to have some kind of a capture method so you don't lose the ideas as they come and you can organize them later on. One of the cardinal rules of brainstorming is that everything is fair game. You do not reject any ideas on the surface. We are open to every and all that comes. Without filtering what's going on in the idea generation, you simply accept and record and capture every idea. This helps the members of your team too. If you're working in a group, helps them to feel like, oh, anything I come up with is a valid idea. And it is. We may reject it later on after we get into the evaluation mode, but that's not relevant right now during the brainstorming mode. We want to keep the flow going. So every idea is valid. Now next I want to share with you something that just recently came up for me as I was reviewing this little guy from Michael Michalko. I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right. He is also the author of Thinker Toys, which is a book that helps you to wrap your head around this idea generation. This ThinkPack that he designed is actually a card set that helps you to open up new possibilities. So the different cards here tell you that you can do certain things with the ideas that you've just generated. So this one, for example, is all about adapt. You see a picture of a fish here, and then the fish walks up onto the land. This isn't a lesson on evolution. It's how can I adapt this idea that we came up with in the brainstorming to serve the purpose that we're trying to do over here by adapting it. Just an example of one of the cards. Here's another card. This one is all about reversing something. So in this image, you see we have a white background here. We got a black background here. We've got the squares and the triangles in a certain orientation here, and it's flipped on the other side. So it's like taking whatever your idea is and reversing it or flipping it or changing it around in a way that it looks different. Just helpful to keep the juices going. This one is about magnifying. And that kind of goes without saying. You got the little thing here and it becomes a bigger thing. What would happen if we took this idea we came up with and we magnified it? So as I was getting into the instructions for the ThinkPack card deck, Michael also uses this acronym. He calls it SCAMPER, the SCAMPER method. So let's go through that. S stands for substitute something. Look at all the elements of this idea. Is there something I could substitute this for that would change it enough that would cause a different idea to emerge? Here's the C in SCAMPER, stands for combine it with something else. What if we took this idea and combined it with that idea? What would happen? Oh, we'd have a whole new idea. The A in SCAMPER stands for adapt something to it. I showed you a card on that with the fish climbing out of the water. We're going to adapt to a new environment. How can we change this idea or adapt it to fit whatever the need is over here? The M in SCAMPER stands for modify or magnify. Modify or magnify it. How can we change it a little bit? Maybe make it a little bigger, maybe do a little modification that brings up a whole new idea. The P in SCAMPER, put it to some other use. Put it to some other use. It's not what we're used to using it for. What could you use a paper clip for example? Well, you can use it to hold papers together. I did an exercise with this once in a brainstorming group. We came up with, I think it was over 200 in the end, 200 different uses for a paper clip. Wow, it's not what it's for, but can you put it to another use? Let's go to the E in SCAMPER. It stands for eliminate something. What can we take out of this that would make it a different idea? And then finally, the R in SCAMPER stands for reverse or rearrange it. And I showed you a card example from that one too. So this tool I think is really helpful. SCAMPER stands for all of the different things that you can do to modify or rearrange or adapt an idea that becomes a whole new idea. So when it comes to generating ideas, let's take the good ideas we already have and see if we can generate even more from those. You've probably got some other ideas about how to generate ideas. Share them. Let's talk.